Hi, this is Enzo, bringing you a podcast today on goal setting. Now, that is something that sounds so damn boring. When people hear goal setting, you can just see their shoulders drop. Their head drops a little bit and thinks, oh, here we go. We're going to state the goal, then we're going to break it down to what I've got to do today as a to-do list, and that's it. And that's pretty much what people do with goals. You know, you hear people saying, I've got a goal, I want to earn 60,000 in a year or 100 grand in a year. And it's like, yeah, great. But why? What's the purpose in that? And when you get there, what are you going to do? You're going to be in a job that's stressing you out just so you can earn 100 grand and pay your mortgage off? That's not real fulfillment. Now, if I know the people that are listening to this podcast, it's the type of people that want fulfillment. They want to live with desire in their life every day, with passion. This is why I want to really talk about goal setting, because for me, a goal should be a North Star. This should be something that's shining bright in the distance that you are pursuing. Something bright that's shining in the distance that's causing you to become a better person, a different person, someone who is competing or operating, should I say, at a higher level, something that makes you feel electric, alive. When you're shooting for a goal, it doesn't matter if you're living in a one-bed flat or a bed sit and you can't afford the heating, you can't afford even to eat. If you have this burning desire to achieve a goal that's in your mind and you're in that state, you don't care. You'll live on the streets. You'll sleep in your car to chase that dream. This is what we're here for. We won. We've already won. You were one of them sperm that got here, and when you developed into a baby, pretty much life has said, you don't know how much you've got here, how long you've got here. You could have 80, 100, 110 years, or you could just have 20. You don't know how long you're here for. So you better make the most of it. This is your time to let rip and live how you want to live. As long as you don't hurt others, you can do whatever you want. Okay, there's other people that don't live like that, obviously. They'll go through school, they'll get a job, they'll retire, they'll die, and that's it. I'm out. But yeah, again, if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're the type of person that wants more. So that's why goal setting is really important. We have got to point your compass to something that's important to you. Something that means a lot. Something that gets your juices going. That's the kind of goal setting I want to talk about today. So if we're goal setting, we've got to have that North Star. You've got to have that future vision that is so big that it scares you shitless. If you really want to have a life that is exciting, that does get you up, then that goal has to virtually scare you. You have to look at the big goal that you've got in many years' time. It could be 10 years, you think I'm going to get there. Basically, you ain't got a clue how you're going to do it. That's then the right goal. It's something you would love to have, something you desire, something that kind of would be possible, and people have done it in the past that have come from lower than you, but it kind of scares you to go for it. That is a good North Star. This is the kind of thing you want to shoot for. Because I tell you what, when you set up a North Star, which is a bit like Grant Cardone with his 10X, he says if you've got a goal, times it by 10. And the reason he says that, and it's the reason I say this to all my drivers and everybody I work with, is if you have a huge goal, what it does is it wakes something up inside of you that is up for the fight. Your brain knows if it's to achieve that North Star, then things have got to change. That you have got to become the kind of person who can actually get it. So that really determines how you train and how you approach it. It turns up your job list. It turns up what you're prepared to do in order to make that leap from where you are now to where you want to be. This is what a North Star is for. It's just like a huge carrot at the end of the line that you are pursuing. But when you look at that huge carrot, you start to raise your limits. You start to expect more of yourself. And when you look at it, you know who you've got to be and what skills you need to go get it. It also makes you self-aware, because if you've got this huge goal, you look at yourself and you pretty much score yourself on what you need to be and how you are right now. So if you need to be confident, if you need to be good at public speaking in order to get that goal, you know for sure, because you're checking in with yourself, you know for sure if you're not very good at public speaking, then you better learn. If you're not very good at sales, then you better learn, or you better couple with somebody who is good at sales. So it starts to make you point that compass in the right direction, but also hold a mirror to yourself and say, what needs to improve in order to get that goal? So first of all, If we're goal setting, the very first thing you need to do is create and visualize and write down your North Star. What is the big daddy goal that you would love to achieve and leave this life having completed? Know it, see it, feel it. Explain it in the best possible way of how you want your life to pan out and make it as big as possible. I mean, if you're here, you might as well shoot for something amazing, right? I mean, if you're like in your 50s and you say, right, I want to be an F1 driver, I'll just say F1 because I'm from the motorsport world, then that's a bit far-fetched. That's the mirror. But really, you've got to have something that looks amazing, that you want to achieve, and it is kind of possible if everything goes right. There's a slight glimpse. You haven't got a clue how you're going to do it, but it's possible. And remember what I said before. If people have done it in the past that started lower than you, then it is possible. But have this huge goal, this huge North Star out there. That's number one. Number two is you must understand why you want it. Because the reason behind a goal is actually more important than the goal itself. If it's because you want to help your family not ever worry about money again, is a big one, isn't it? Because they will no matter how much money they've got, but you want to save your family. You want to help them get out of the crappy life that they've got right now, and yourself. If it's a bigger purpose around that goal, then you are going to wake up every morning. So write down, once you've got that North Star, write down 3 or 4 reasons why it's important to you. What's it going to give you? Why that goal? The why is more important than anything. I want you to always remember that. And also, underneath that, once you've got the North Star, the big goal, once you fully understand why you want it, then underneath that, the third thing is who is the kind of person that you're going to have to become in order to pull this off. What's the mindset? How are you going to look at life? Who have you got to be? How are you going to show up each day? What are the skills you do actually need to be in place? The personal skills, the people skills, the selling, whatever it is. Who is the kind of person? Now just start to picture and write out the kind of person that could go from where you are to where you want to be. This is interesting because now you start to get down to the kind of person you do need to be if this is going to happen. So just as an overall starter, 1, be very clear on what you want. 2, be even more clear on why you want it and why it's worth going for. And 3, who do you need to be to pull it off? This is your compass that's now set. If you do this right, then your life has now got purpose. You know what you're doing. Okay, we've got to do with the to-do jobs and all that, but you know what direction you're going. And if you revisit this, which is what I'm going to get onto next on a daily basis, if you revisit this, it reminds the brain who it's going to be that day. It also determines what decisions you're going to make. It also helps you write out a to-do list that's actually going to work, not just make you a busy fool. So this is it, daily. How do we do this? Well, what you do, start of the week. So once you've got your North Star, you look at it all the time, right? You look at it every single morning, even if you have to write it out every morning. As soon as you wake up, you write out your North Star and all the other different goals that you really want to achieve. Then you set up the day in a way where the brain is focused on what it wants. Now, if you know my daily routine, it's when I go out for a jog, I get grateful for things for a few minutes, but also I project the future and visualize the dream that I want to create in my life. So if you don't write it out, then you can do it in an imagination way where you just visualize it. You have a vision for the life you want to create, and this is how you start your days. You start your days by just teleporting yourself to the goal that you want. And then you will see it all there. And then you will know who you've got to be that day. So every single day, I want you to visit your goal. Some people say they write it at the beginning of the day, and then they write their goals again at the end of the day. And in the middle, they just try and bridge that gap as much as they can. And that's really what this is all about. The goal is the compass, but then when you have the goal, you know the kind of jobs you need to do in the day to get it. Got it? This is what it's all about. So start your week, right? You get to Sunday night, you've got the next week coming, or the Monday morning, depending on how your life is. You write down the goal, and you write down how you can get there the quickest during that week. How you can spend the week that's coming that will impact the most, that will give you a leap towards your goal. And then you start to write down the certain goals or the certain jobs you need to do in this coming week. If I was to make the biggest leap towards that massive North Star I've got, what could I do this week? And you write down 4 or 5 things. And you know that if you've completed at least 3 of these big to-do jobs that you've got on this list, if you completed them by the time you get to Friday, you look back, you say, you know what, that was a good week. This is interesting because now we're like an archer, shall we say, who's looking at the big goal, he's pulling back the bow, and is making and doing all the actions they need to do in order to get the target. And then they're releasing it. That's what you're doing on a weekly basis. You write down the North Star. Even do this on an Excel sheet if you want to be methodical about it. Then, in the coming week, what would you love to have executed in order to get you even closer to that goal? What would it be? You write them down. This is like a big to-do list. You're going to have lots of other to-dos underneath, obviously, but if you just have them as your guiding principle to have a great week, what would I need to do in order to have a great week right now? Then you're going to win. And on the daily basis, visit the goal all the time. Check in with yourself. How was I yesterday? Did it work? What can I do today that takes me even closer? So really, this is a thing where you're constantly brainstorming. And you're writing down what needs to be done. And you're actually taking action, not just writing it down. I prefer you just to write down one thing on your to-do list, but follow through on it, than have a big to-do list and just look at it and get scared and not do anything. Or to have a big to-do list on things that are not really taking you closer. That's why we use the Sunday night or the Monday morning to set it up. You visit the goal, you say, right, that's what we need to do overall, the North Star. Remind yourself why you want it. Just to get yourself motivated, how much it means to you and the person you need to become. And then to have a really successful week, what would I have to complete this week? Then you can start to just map out the days. And that's really it. This is never ending. If you've got that North Star you're shooting for, all you have to do is reverse engineer it. What's got to be done this week and what's got to be done today to get it done? And who have I got to become to get it done? Because a lot of this is going to come down to you as an individual. As you know, many times it's not the horse, it's the jockey that's the most important thing. Same with you. Life is like a horse, all right? This is all the vehicle that you're going through life with. But the jockey, the person driving or riding that horse, is the one that directs it and tells it what to do. That's you. You must really focus 100% every single day on that North Star and make sure your actions and make sure your skill set is aligned to it, and your mindset and your attitude and your work ethic. And I tell you what, if you remain patient, you work like crazy, but you remain globally patient, you'd be surprised what you can achieve in 10 years. And a lot of people underestimate what can be achieved in 10 years, but they overestimate what they can achieve in a year. They think they're going to change the world, so then they lose interest in the goal. But no, constantly chip away, constantly refocus on that North Star, remind yourself why it's so important to you, be the person you need to be, and then daily revisit it and take the necessary actions. That's all there is to this. Now get out there, go do it, and I'll speak to you next time.